Now, a special two-part edition of 48 Hours.
People are involved here. Parents who work, parents that stay home.
It's the type of neighborhood when the kids go to the bus stop in the morning, you know, the parents are there, and Fred was there every morning.
Fred was just a wonderful man. He enjoyed life like we all do here.
I think his ultimate goal was to be a great dad, to have a solid family.
He was very, very involved with his children. The morning of the 30th started out like any other morning.
He was a fairly precise individual. He taught at the University of Richmond. It was his regular pattern to get up, make some coffee, come outside, retrieve the newspaper.
At 6:30, Fred Jablin went outside in his slippers to go get his newspaper, and he was gunned down in his driveway. My name's Kobe Kelly. I'm a homicide detective with the Henrico County Police.
I lost my best friend. I lost my brother.
Who goes through life expecting to know someone who gets murdered? You don't ever expect to have a friend murdered.
I was in Texas. I was about ready to go out to a Halloween party with my sister, and I got a call from a good friend of mine. She was just very, very upset, and she said, Fred's been killed. And I was just stunned. My name's Piper Roundtree. Fred Jablin and I were married for 19 years.
She was devastated because of his death. He's the father of her children.
I met Piper and thought she was odd until I met her sister and realized that Piper was the least of the two.
They were very close. Tina was an interesting character in her own right.
Am I going to call them both nutty? Okay, they're both nutty.
From day one, I was always disappointed that she married Fred. He was a very nasty, mean, egotistical person.
I think that neither one of them acted in the manner which we would expect family members would normally act when they've learned that a former loved one has been murdered.
My sister loves me. We're very, very close.
She will go out to save people and do things for people that no other person would ever do.
Well, it's definitely not your run-of-the-mill case. You have a suspect flying in from out of state, carrying the weapon with them. You have someone using a different identification. You have wigs and makeup and that sort of thing.
I never would have dreamed that any of that family would have done anything like that. So I would have bet money, absolutely not.
It's not, what did I think about Fred Jablin? It's, did I kill Fred Jablin?
Yes.
Two wigs, a gun, and a murder.
In the fall of 2004, this sleepy suburb of Richmond, Virginia, was all dressed up for Halloween, ready for its annual visit from pint-sized ghosts and goblins.
Say trick-or-treat!
But for this close-knit neighborhood, the spookiest day of the year arrived early.
On the morning of the 30th, I got up, planning on going to the gym to work out. I was putting on my running shoes, when all of a sudden, my husband and I heard three loud sounds. Bang, bang, bang. We kind of looked at one another like, what could that possibly be? I said, well, maybe people are hunting, duck hunting down around Tuckahoe Creek.
Megan McCrary shrugged it off and went to the gym for her morning workout. But just down the road...
The windows were open, and all of a sudden I heard three gunshots go off, bang, bang, bang.
Neighbor Bob McCartel saw something he couldn't ignore.
I saw someone running down the street in front of my house. It was so dark out, couldn't tell if it was a man or woman, I couldn't tell.
McCartel called 911, and within minutes, the police were searching the neighborhood.
There were 3 police officers here with cars. First, they started driving with their searchlights, and then they were out on foot with their flashlights. They came back to my house about 15 minutes later.
Police told McCartel they hadn't been able to find any sign of a shooter or a victim.
So I said, all right, well, when the sun comes up, I'll take a walk out, and I'll see if I can find anything, and if I do, I'll give you a call back. About 45 minutes later, my wife and I took a walk, and we just walked down towards Fred's house, and Doreen actually looked up and saw something up on the driveway.
Well, it was kind of strange because it was Halloween time, and they had their house done up where they had, like, little things kind of sticking out. So there was just like a pile almost, a lump.
Lying in his driveway was Fred Jablin, a well-respected 52-year-old college professor, a devoted father to 3 young children.
I yelled at Doreen. I said, call the police back. I said, it's Fred, and he's dead.
My pager went off at about 7:30 a.m. There was a man down at Hearthglow Lane, which is about 3 blocks from my home.
Around that time, an unsuspecting Megan McCrary returned home from working out at the gym.
I came in through the door. I was all set to cook everybody breakfast. Tim came into the kitchen and said, Megan, you need to come outside immediately. He held on to me. He said, Megan, Fred Jablin is dead. I said, what? Things like that, it doesn't happen. You know, that's not this neighborhood. He said, Fred Jablin is lying in his driveway. He is dead. All I could think of right then were those 3 children that were still in the house.
I was concerned about the children. I made inquiry. I said, well, has anyone checked on the children?
Officer Harry Boyd's children were close friends with the Jablin children.
And no one here at that point knew about any children. So I told them immediately that there were 3 children somewhere.
Police entered the home and found Fred Jablin's children, his 12-year-old son and his 2 daughters, ages 10 and 15.
All 3 children were asleep in their rooms. We got them out as quickly as possible through another door so they wouldn't come out into this area of the home, of course, and see Fred in the driveway.
Officer Boyd took Fred's children to his home nearby.
Did you have an opportunity to sit them down and explain at some point what happened?
Yes, we did.
That's tough to do.
Oh, it was
under the best of circumstances.
It was tough for all of us. It was just a nightmare to have to do that. They were, of course, very upset. We explained to them that their father had been shot and that we were trying to find out who may have done that, and that they were going to be staying with me and my family until we could make arrangements to get their uncle and the rest of their family here.
Their uncle, Fred's older brother, Michael, lived about 2 hours away in Northern Virginia.
My first reaction was disbelief. I called my brother's home, left a message, called his cell phone, and no response. And then one of the Henrico County officers told me the situation, and I couldn't believe it. I just couldn't believe what happened.
Fred's ex-wife, Piper Roundtree, says she too was stunned when she learned of his murder.
I'd got a phone call from a friend of mine who had heard about it, and nobody knew what had happened.
Piper was living in Houston, Texas, where she'd moved after their divorce.
It was very sad. He's the children's father. The children need 2 parents. They need a mother, they need a father.
Back in Richmond, homicide detective Kobe Kelly was put in charge of the investigation.
We saw the person had come out here wearing a robe, wearing slippers.
Detective Kelly's theory was that Fred Jablin was on his way to pick up his morning newspaper.
I suspect that someone or something drew his attention back this direction as he was walking down to get the paper, and that whatever confrontation took place probably happened right here in this area.
So, are you speculating that perhaps Fred Jablin actually talked to this person?
I think, in my mind, I think so. We'll never be able to prove that. There was no one out here to hear anything like that, but I believe so.
It made sense to Detective Kelly that Fred Jablin may have known his killer.
So he talked to him, walked away, and was shot in the back.
And that would explain, yeah, the bullets entering through the back of the arm and out the forearm, and the other one entering his back and lodging inside his body.
After analyzing the crime scene, Kelly went to work on suspects.
We were trying to find out a little bit about the victim, talking to neighbors, talking to friends and family, and just try to find out if he had any enemies or anyone that would think to do something like this.
Now, Fred Jablin is a professor at the university here.
Yes.
As you look for suspects or thinking about possible suspects, what thoughts went through your mind?
Well, I think initially maybe a student that hadn't done well in one of his classes, that comes to mind.
Police went to the University of Richmond to check out that angle.
We were trying to get to his office and see if there's anything there that would give us a direction to go to.
Like bad grades or F's and stuff like that? You'd be looking for things like that?
Absolutely.
But Kobe Kelly knew what all homicide detectives know when looking for suspects. Start close to home.
I learned pretty early on that people said, I have no idea who would want to do this to Fred, but have you talked to his ex-wife?
Detective Kobe Kelly reached Piper Roundtree in Houston.
And he said all the immediate family was under suspicion, Michael Jablin and me.
At the time of the murder, Piper and her ex-husband had been apart for almost 4 years, and she had started a whole new life in Houston. Not only that, but police would soon learn that Piper had an alibi for the day of the murder.
It was the Saturday before Halloween.
A family friend and attorney, Marty McVeigh, remembers Piper stopping by his Houston office on the very day her ex-husband was murdered, more than 1,000 miles away.
I was in my office, had my doors open for let the breeze come through, and about 4:30 in the afternoon, Piper Roundtree just walked in my office and sat down. Just a casual conversation, nothing out of the ordinary.
280 and 281, 280.
While detectives continued to check out Piper's story, another name surfaced.
I know she didn't kill Fred Jablin.
And unlike Piper Roundtree, this woman had nothing nice to say about Fred Jablin.
He was a very nasty, mean, egotistical person.
Piper's sister, Tina.
In our conversations with some of the neighbors and people in the area, we knew that Piper did have a sister named Tina Roundtree.
On the afternoon of Fred Jablin's murder, Detective Kobe Kelly got a major lead from airport officials in Virginia.
We found that Southwest Airlines had a passenger on their manifest with the last name Roundtree. And in fact, the name on the ticket was Tina Roundtree.
So you determined that there was a Tina Roundtree with a flight booked, a purchase ticket to Houston?
Yes.
Airline records showed that 2 days before the murder, Piper's sister, Tina Roundtree, had flown from her home in Houston, Texas to Virginia, where Fred Jablin was killed. And now, on the afternoon of the murder, records show Tina is booked on a return flight back home to Houston, a flight that is already in the air. So, did you make any contact with Houston PD at this point?
We did, and they got their people together. And it's getting closer to the point where the plane is going to land down there. So we were trying to explain to them a little bit about our situation and also get them to get to the airport where this plane was going to land to try to identify the person traveling under the ticket, Tina Roundtree.
So what happened in Houston?
Well, the detectives arrived down there, and they had a couple of detectives, a lieutenant that was down there, and several officers. And as they were approaching the gate, my understanding is that the plane was unloading.
At that time, around 4:30 on the afternoon of the murder, Detective Kobe Kelly didn't know what he, and we at 48 Hours, would soon discover. The Roundtree sisters have a remarkably fierce devotion to one another, and learning more about the extent of that devotion would become one of the stranger twists in this already twisted tale.
They're definitely two peas out of the same pod. Tina and Piper both the same type of person.
Piper and I are, we're soul sisters. We're incomplete without each other. She's someone that I need very, very much, and I get a lot from. We call each other 2 or 3 times a day. We're very, very tight.
How would you describe her?
Amazonian. That's usually the first word.
Amazonian.
Yes, there's no one out there like Tina. She is able to do anything that she sets her mind to doing.
Tina Roundtree is 8 years older than her sister Piper, an age difference that mattered when they were younger.
Mother used to always make me sleep with her, and I didn't like her crawling in my bed and having to sleep with her, and she wanted to be snuggled. She was just a child. She was wanting attention. But the family environment was very, very close because my father was a physician in the Air Force, and we traveled every 2 years. And so just as we made ties, we would have to break them, and so there was a lot of dependency on each other.
Today, Tina and Piper are best friends.
Over the last 20 years, we've become very, very close. In fact, we sleep together frequently, even as adults, when we go to each other's houses.
She's just incredible. You walk around the village, the area where she lives in Houston, and most people have a story about Tina, one thing or another.
By the time Piper was in high school, the Roundtree family was living in a small town in Texas near the Mexican border. But Piper had bigger plans.
I always admired her because she was brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
Piper headed off to the prestigious University of Texas at Austin with dreams of becoming a lawyer.
She could do anything, and she achieved everything, from theater to spelling bees to boyfriends to having lots of friends. And I didn't have all that. I mean, it's things you admire in other people, especially that you don't have or that you want.
While away at college, Piper caught the eye of another admirer, her communications professor, Fred Jablin.
I suppose it was the classical case of a student falling for their professor.
Fred Jablin was 29 and very driven. Piper was a free spirit and 8 years younger.
He is very witty and very different. He is very, very bright.
This is as far as I can go.
One of the brightest men I think I've ever met. I've always looked up to him. He was exceptional. He was one of the best teachers. He also had a very quirky side to him, as I've been described as having myself. I think those two qualities between us meshed a lot.
They married 2 years later, in the fall of 1983.
It was a really nice, warm relationship. We worked really well together. That's probably our strength.
Professor John Daly knew Fred and Piper as newlyweds and was one of Fred's best friends.
We used to have lots of fun. We went out to get a drink after work at 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. If I remember correctly, Fred is the one who started this. One night we're just sitting there and working away on our typewriters. In those days, computers didn't exist. And he just started barking, just for fun.
I really didn't know that he was barking at school as well.
Oh, you did it at home, huh?
Yeah. He was, he used to get the dogs barking in the neighborhood. It was one of those things that he particularly was proud about.
Fred was also proud of his wife, Piper, and her plans to become a lawyer.
Piper wanted to go to law school, so Fred said, fine, let's try to get us into law school.
After graduating from law school, Piper landed a big job in Austin as an assistant district attorney.
I was a prosecutor for, a little over a year, and then from there I went and worked for the school districts in Texas.
She can do anything. It's amazing the knowledge that she has.
Her sister Tina settled in Houston and became a nurse practitioner. A few years later, Fred and Piper started a family. Fred's brother Michael says the marriage was solid.
They had 2 lovely children who were born in Texas, Jocelyn and Paxton, and they enjoyed themselves.
But for Piper, a working mom, life was hectic.
I'd be in the courtroom, and I'd be looking at my watch thinking, I've got to go pick up my child at daycare. There were times when the kids were sick, and I'd take the kids into the court with me, and the judge would be bouncing them on his lap in the middle of a hearing.
I was the main support person in the first 15 years of her marriage or so when she lived in Texas. I would go visit them all the time. I'd babysit for them all the time. I was the primary other person.
Then in the summer of 1994, life for the Jablin family changed. Fred accepted an offer to teach at the University of Richmond and uprooted the Jablin family to Virginia.
Piper did not want to leave Texas because that was her home base. Her family was there.
Right after we moved up here, within 2 weeks, I had a ruptured ectopic pregnancy and almost died. and so had a completely revised outlook on really what was important. And after that, the doctor told me that I would never have children again. It was just not going to be possible. And within about 6 months, I became pregnant with my third child, Callie. And she was a gift from God.
Piper decided to change the focus of her life and become a full-time mom to Callie, Paxton, and Jocelyn.
She cooked for them, she played with them, they made cookies, they went rock hunting together. She took them fishing, and she did all the things that typically a father would do.
Piper was like a little Pied Piper. All the little kids would just come up and circle around her.
Annie Williams was Piper's friend.
Piper is wonderful about taking them outside and doing things and has more patience probably than I did, and she frequently would come pick up my son with rollerblades or his bike and take him out to the park for a day, just being outside all day.
But Piper missed the rest of her family back in Texas, and her marriage started to suffer. You started to drift apart?
Yeah, and we had pretty much 2 separate lives once we came to Richmond.
Tina Roundtree never forgave Fred for moving her sister so far away.
One of the main reasons that they moved to Richmond was so that Fred could get Piper away from her family, because she's a very strong family person.
Eventually, Piper told Fred she was leaving him.
She wanted to escape, and she wanted to get away from him.
And that's when the real trouble began. Fred Jablin decided to fight for sole custody of the couple's 3 children.
She was devastated. She was shocked, and we all were, because how you don't take children away from a mother who she was a primary caregiver.
While the idea of losing her children was devastating to Piper, it was inexcusable to her sister Tina.
How many hours I spent with her crying. She was crying. It was horrible.
And she had a very close relationship with them, didn't she?
It was to see this precious 3-year-old screaming to be with her mother.
Piper's sister Tina doesn't try to hide her hostility towards Fred Jablin, even after his brutal murder.
From day one, I was always disappointed that she married Fred. He was ugly, I thought. He was a very controlling man. He built himself up by putting her down.
But did Tina Roundtree hate Fred Jablin enough to kill him? On the afternoon of the murder, Detective Kelly was hoping for answers. Police officers were at Houston's Hobby Airport, primed and ready to greet the plane carrying a passenger named Tina Roundtree. But what happened next surprised everyone. The afternoon of Fred Jablin's murder, police were working their first big lead, a tip that a Tina Roundtree was en route to Houston after spending the past 2 days in Virginia.
It was Saturday, October 30th, 2004.
Detective Brett McDaniel had raced to the airport, hoping to meet the plane before it landed.
I knew I was looking for a 40-something white female. We had some driver license photos of both Tina, the sister, as well as Piper Roundtree.
Although the ticket was booked in Tina's name, Houston police were also on the lookout for another Roundtree, the dead man's ex-wife Piper, who may have had more of a motive than her sister.
We were looking for females. And I was putting my money on blondes.
Piper had brown hair. Tina had blonde.
I stationed a uniform officer at the end of the terminal with a set of pictures and asked him as well to stop anyone he thought might be either of the individuals.
The plane landed and the passengers filed off.
We stopped probably at least a dozen women.
After the last of the stragglers, the officers realized their target had slipped through their fingers.
She just got past us. There was too many people, too few of us, not enough people to stop every possible female that could have been this person.
Everyone had come off the plane and they had not located Piper, Tina, whoever would have been traveling under that name.
In fact, that mysterious passenger had managed to pick up her luggage at baggage claim without being noticed and then vanished.
She was gone.
The next day, with the investigation now focused in the city where both sisters lived, Detective Kelly hopped a plane to Houston from Virginia.
Got up around 4:30 the next morning.
Didn't get much sleep that night?
No, not at all.
48 Hours wanted Detective Kelly to show us what happened next. So we flew him back to Houston to retrace his steps.
We were interested in talking to Piper.
Now, certainly we were not ignoring anything that would lead us in a different direction, but at that point, it was a pretty good place to begin.
Detective Kelly met up with the Houston team working the case.
Thank you.
And together, they headed over to Piper Roundtree's house.
Knocked on the door, rung the doorbell, looked in the garage. We can see the Jeep Liberty sitting in there. We were probably outside her house for a good 10 to 15 minutes, milling about, peeking in windows and knocking on the door, trying to get someone to come to the door. Never did.
With no answer, they decided to pay a visit to her sister, Tina.
We drove the whole half hour plus down to Tina's house.
But just in case, one of the officers stayed behind at Piper's. Did Piper ever come out of the house?
She did. We got a call from Sergeant Ferguson, who was sitting outside her house. He saw her vehicle leaving the driveway.
A vehicle like this one.
And he followed her.
Sergeant Ferguson stayed on Piper's tail and relayed the route she was taking to the rest of the team so they could turn around and join the pursuit.
And what turned out was she began to head south on the interstate. We were heading north on the interstate. At some point, we turned around and got in behind her.
And the chase was on.
We were certainly following her vehicle, hoping to be able to talk to her one-on-one when she stopped.
No, she had to look in the rearview mirror and saw this police parade behind her, right?
Absolutely. At one point, she made kind of a last-minute diversion from one off-ramp back onto the interstate, and of course, we were doing the same little serpentine move. And yeah, I think she definitely knew.
The pursuit ended on a residential street in central Houston.
She pulled into a parking spot. I got out of the car, approached hers, and introduced myself, introduced the other people around me. She said, "Come on inside," and we walked into the open door.
Piper had driven to the law office of trial attorney and friend Marty McVeigh. As it turned out, McVeigh wasn't alone.
There was also a female there, Tina Roundtree, Piper's sister.
Tina Roundtree, also a friend of McVeigh's, had arrived a few minutes before Piper.
Tina Roundtree walks in my office. That's the first time I heard that Fred had been killed. She came in and said, "Did you know, have you heard Fred was killed yesterday morning?" I said, "No, I haven't."
But McVeigh was in for another surprise.
Piper comes walking in my office door with 4 detectives, 2 from the Houston Police Department and 2 from the Henrico County, wanting to talk to her. I took Piper in my office, talked to her for a minute. She wanted to talk to them. They sat right here in this reception area and had a conversation.
I wanted to ask her, who do you think would have done something like this? And that was a good entree into getting her to talk to us.
But Piper says she had only one thing on her mind: who was taking care of her 3 children?
It was just incredible, the total lack of interest that anybody had.
Until that meeting, almost 36 hours after Fred's murder, Piper hadn't been told her children were safe with Fred's brother, Michael.
And certainly anyone could understand that a mother concerned about her kids and the police were not putting her in touch with the kids. Anybody could understand that that would be an explanation for some of her behavior.
At any point, did you sense that Piper was being accused of this murder?
To the opposite, they told her she was not a suspect. The majority of Piper's conversation with them was concerning her children.
The meeting was cut short because McVeigh had to leave to pick up his son. Later, Detective Kelly decided to try another tactic. He and a few other officers drove to Tina's house, hoping to speak with her alone.
We had a conversation with her. She was fairly on target with where are the kids? Kids need to be with their mother. Those sort of questions. And she said, "You bring the kids here," or something to that effect, and then we'll talk again. We ended up getting pretty much ejected from her house.
Meanwhile, Piper was doing her own detective work. She needed to firm up her alibi, putting her in Houston, not Virginia, the night before Fred's murder.
She asked the bartender if she remembered seeing her.
Piper returned to this bar, the Volcano, where she claimed she'd been on Friday night, to see if anyone remembered seeing her there.
Bartender called to me and said, "Do you remember her?" And I said, "Yeah, I remember seeing her." She wanted our phone number so that she could give them to the police to substantiate that she was here.
All right, you said you did remember seeing her here.
Right.
What made you remember?
Distinctive features and petite and pixie haircut, you know, she's cute.
Caught your eye?
Yeah.
It was the alibi Piper was looking for, and she passed it on to Detective Kelly.
She left a message for me saying that there were two people, a guy named Kevin O'Keefe and a lady named Cheryl Kreider, who was a bartender at this volcano, that could put her in the volcano on that Friday night, which would be pretty good because she obviously couldn't be in Richmond at the same time she was there.
So now Piper had witnesses who saw her in Houston the night before the murder to go along with her lawyer friend, who saw her on the afternoon of the murder at the same time the airplane from Virginia was landing. If what you say is true, it would be difficult for her to get in your office at 4:30 in the afternoon.
That's correct. And if she was on that flight, it would have been impossible for her to get to my office at 4:30 because I understand the flight didn't come in until 4:40. It was 10 minutes late. And it's at least a 30 or 45-minute drive from Hobby Airport to my office.
But Tina Roundtree says she couldn't have been on the plane either because she was seeing patients all day.
Melissa, can you come here just a second, please?
At her women's health clinic. Detective Kobe Kelly didn't know what to think, but he was sure of one thing about the Roundtree sisters.
I think that neither one of them acted in the manner which we would expect family members would normally act when they've learned that a former loved one has been murdered. Both of them acted oddly, as far as I'm concerned.
And it wasn't long before the investigation would zero in on just one of them. Did you kill Fred Joblin?
It's not what did I think about Fred Jablin, it's did I kill Fred Jablin?
Yes.
That's impossible too.
And the answer is no.
The answer is no.
As Detective Kelly learned more about the Jablins' nasty divorce,
It was very, very, very bitter.
he started to see the scars it left with Piper and her sister Tina.
It was very, very painful for me because I love her so much. We're a part of each other.
Fred never understood what the problem was in the marriage or why we needed to go through divorce, even though we'd been through counseling 3 times before, and it wasn't working.
They've been married for nearly 19 years, and it hadn't been working for quite some time. A year and a half before the divorce, Piper got a warrant charging Fred with domestic violence and filed for a protective order against him. And you've witnessed some of this abuse, either physically or emotionally?
Well, physically, no.
Tina Roundtree only knows and believes what her sister told her.
She had told me the next day that he had hit her. The only other instance I remember, it was as far as physical abuse goes. Mental abuse, definitely, it was sick.
According to Tina, Fred's abuse was also directed at their 3 children.
I saw him frequently lose his temper with the kids because, you get into a mode when you're a professor and they all say yes, sir, and they do what you, and he brought that attitude home with him.
In almost all cases, we never use just one sequencing of questions.
And expected that Piper, or the children especially, do exactly what he said when he says it.
In February of 2001, Piper finally moved out of the house and later filed for divorce.
She finally had the courage to escape and become her own person again.
In July of 2002, the divorce went through.
When they first got divorced, there was like a joint custody arrangement. Piper lived down the road from my brother's home, and they tried to arrange joint custody.
According to Tina, that's when Fred really tightened the screws.
Once he had to face the fact that he was going to, lose face in the community, he was going to be a divorced man, he all of a sudden switched gears.
Fred decided to fight for full custody of their 3 children And according to Tina, Fred Jablin was a trained expert.
Questions are something you don't think about until you really...
At winning arguments.
He was like a PhD professor in persuasive communications. So that was a tough one to go against from the beginning.
At the custody trial, Fred pulled out all the stops. He wants to win and everything.
Yes, that was Fred.
He can't take losing. He can't lose face.
Fred painted Piper as an unstable mother.
Fred would say, you know, she got into this drug stuff. She apparently had an affair at one point. She apparently became unpredictable with the kids.
And he told the judge that Piper had racked up more than $50,000 in debt without his knowing.
He had to make her look like the bad guy.
Fred also accused Piper of being unfaithful.
She did not have an affair. It was when they were separated. They were physically separated, and she was out of the house when she started seeing him.
Michael Jablin wouldn't go into details with us, but he believes his brother's accusations, and he wasn't alone.
Some of Piper's behaviors were questionable, and some of her things she was doing for the sake of the children.
Piper seemed to have just gone off the deep edge over a period of time.
I think the judge in the case reviewed the facts and realized that Fred would make a better parent.
In July of 2002, Fred Jablin won full custody of their 3 children.
Piper could have visitation, and I think it took a lot of decisions on the judge's part to come up with that, because normally mothers get custody. In this case, it was very unique. The judge saw that Piper had some problems, and Fred would provide more stability in the home life.
Did it upset you that he got custody of the children?
Well, yeah, naturally it did. I was very, very upset.
Did your children understand what was happening?
As much as they were able to. The little was you know, it's just very difficult.
Remarkably, Piper Roundtree not only lost her children, but she was ordered to pay Fred Jablin almost $900 a month in child support, in part to pay back some of the thousands of dollars in debt she owed her ex-husband. Now, you were paying child support to your husband?
Yes.
Which is the reverse of the way it's normally done.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, I was.
Was that difficult for you?
Yes, it very was.
Piper had failed the bar exam in Virginia, so after the divorce, she struggled to find a job.
It was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. She couldn't get a job. She's a licensed attorney in the state of Texas. She was a prosecutor. She'd get a job at Walmart, but that's not going to pay her a $900 child support payment, nor put food on the table, nor provide for the children, which is her responsibility.
So Piper moved back to Texas to find work.
She didn't have a choice.
She had to leave Virginia.
Yeah. Of course, they claimed she was abandoning her children. No, she had to survive because Fred gave her nothing. Fred took everything.
It was very difficult to begin with, just starting out as sort of a new attorney, because I couldn't really step back into the field that I was in after 10 years of being out of the field. And so I started back into working, just doing any type of case that walked in. I had 3 kids to support.
Her 3 children stayed behind in Richmond, Virginia with their father.
My brother was wearing 2 hats, a mom hat and a dad hat. He would attend soccer games, Cub Scout meetings, tennis tournaments, dance classes. He'd go to school. He'd be there all the time. He would be a school parent many times and a classroom parent.
He was very, very involved with his children. You know, you go up to the school and he had signed up, you know, for all the parties, to bring napkins, drinks.
How often was she allowed to see her children?
Well, she had to ask for permission every single time. So actually, Piper saw them 6 days out of an entire month, and that was it.
She had a bitter divorce with her ex-husband. Her ex-husband actually got custody of the children. Piper Roundtree ended up paying child support. Marty McVeigh shared a law office with Piper in Texas.
That's correct.
Was she bitter about that? That bothered her?
Yeah, she was bitter.
And she talked to you about it?
Oh, yeah.
What'd she say?
She didn't understand why she was being treated like she was by the court and the judicial system in Virginia. And that was where most of her animosity was directed to. It was not directed at her ex-husband, but it was the way she was being treated in her divorce case.
She was not very happy when she was having to pay alimony, when she was struggling and not having much money.
Jerry Walters became close to Piper shortly after she moved to Texas. And he, too, says Piper never voiced any hostility towards Fred.
She was not enamored with Fred by no means any longer, but she did not walk around the house muttering under her breath, I hate Fred, I hate Fred. She didn't like the situation she was in, and she didn't like not having her kids, but she never alluded to doing away with Fred, no.
If Piper was bitter towards her ex-husband, she hid it well. Her sister Tina, on the other hand,
And to see what the courts did then, and I'm kind of understanding it, seeing some blatant misjustices.
And did you ever see the children once Fred got custody of them?
I wasn't allowed to go over there. I mean, how can you stop someone from seeing their aunt who comes all the way? And they did. They went to court and said, nope, can't do it.
So you were not allowed to see them?
No.
Piper says she'd come to terms with her situation long before Fred was murdered, and so had no reason to kill him.
The money that I was making in Texas, I was fine. You know, it was comfortable. It was, I was able to make enough to pay the child support, to have a very nice lifestyle, and see my kids and be with my kids. I didn't have any wants, except seeing my kids a little more, maybe.
And although she's not naming names, Piper says she's pretty sure she knows who did have a motive to kill Fred Jablin.
Is it someone that might hate your husband, have a grudge against your husband?
Yes.
So much so that they'd be willing to murder him?
Yeah, I think so.
But the truth was about to catch up with Piper Roundtree.
This special two-part edition of 48 Hours will continue.
It was about 6:35 in the morning.
A quiet street in Richmond, Virginia.
As I was getting dressed, my husband and I heard 3 loud bangs.
Not a street where you'd expect a murder.
When I arrived on the scene, I could see at the top of the driveway my friend and neighbor, Fred Jablin.
He put both hands on my shoulders and he said, Megan, Fred Jablin is lying in his driveway. He's dead.
And Fred Jablin wasn't your average murder victim.
You've got a university professor killed in a neighborhood that's really not the norm.
Fred Jablin was a totally involved father, a super single parent.
So who killed Fred Jablin?
People said, I have no idea who would want to do this to Fred, but have you talked to his ex-wife?
I was married to Fred Jablin. We have 3 children.
Had a pretty nasty divorce. Certainly she was a suspect.
But a suspect with a seemingly rock-solid alibi.
Bartender called to me and said, do you remember her? And I said, yeah, I remember seeing her. Petite and pixie haircut.
I know she didn't kill Fred Jablin. She was devastated because of his death.
They're definitely 2 peas out of the same pod, Tina and Piper.
Police also suspected Tina.
It's not what did I think about Fred Jablin, it's did I kill Fred Jablin?
Yes.
And now, police are about to unravel the clues that will lead to an arrest.
We've got cell phone records, latex gloves, makeup, 2 wigs. A lot of twists and turns in this one. No, it's definitely not your normal standard murder.
2 wigs, a gun, and a murder.
I was looking for this guy, Jerry Walters, whose name this card was in. We hadn't spoken to him at this point, and so one of our goals was to try to locate him.
A couple of days after Fred Jablin's murder, Detective Kobe Kelly learned more about the round-trip airline ticket booked under the name Tina Roundtree. The person who paid for the ticket was a guy named Jerry Walters.
We knew that a bank card in his name was used and was instrumental in making this homicide happen, but we really didn't know what his role was in it, if any. And so we're trying to figure out who's Jerry Walters.
It didn't take them long to learn that Jerry Walters knew Piper.
Piper Roundtree and I at one time were girlfriend-boyfriend.
Piper started dating Jerry Walters in 2003, shortly after moving to Houston.
We exchanged phone numbers and started talking on the telephone, went out to supper a time or two, and it just went from there. She was very sweet, great off-the-wall sense of humor, which I appreciated. Cute, obviously. Pretty much a normal person.
Even though Walters was living 4 hours from Houston in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, they made it work.
I was in Houston quite often on business, so it was not difficult. I mean, I was there probably 2 days minimum a week.
Their long-distance relationship lasted for about a year.
Then that evolved into a continuing close relationship, close friendship.
So close that Walters was one of the first people Piper called the night of Fred Jablin's murder.
I came home from an LSU football game about 10:30-ish, 11-ish, and my cell phone rang, and it was Piper, and she said, she was asking me to come to Houston, and she said, it's important, Fred's dead. And I said, what happened? She says, well, I'm not certain Fred's dead. And she was not screaming, but she was not far from hysteria, I would think, and she was crying.
Walters wasn't able to go to Houston, but he did his best to comfort Piper by phone.
She was very concerned with the kids. But in my whole relationship with Piper, she was very concerned, but more so, obviously, this was to the extreme.
4 days after the murder, Detective Kelly tracked down Jerry Walters to find out why his bank card seemed to be connected to a murder.
I think he asked me how well did I know Fred, and I didn't know Fred at all. I never had any conversation with him in my life.
Walters told Detective Kelly he had no idea who could have used his bank card during the weekend of the murder because he says it had been stolen before then.
I don't think anyone on the face of the earth was more shocked than myself to find out my card was in Richmond, Virginia. I did not have a clue.
Walters says he first found out something was wrong with his card when he tried to withdraw cash from the account.
They said, well, Mr. Walters, the account's overdrawn. And I said, why? And they said, well, you've got pending ATM charges in Richmond, Virginia. And I said, really? And they said, uh-huh. I said, okay, get back to you. That's when I started getting a little concerned that Jerry Walters' card was floating around a murder scene in Richmond, Virginia.
Jerry Walters called Piper immediately because if anyone was going to know about his card, it was her. You see, the card wasn't really his. Although he had access to the bank account, Walters had opened it at Piper's request under his name so that she could hide assets from her ex-husband.
I asked her, what's the deal on the card? How come my card was in Richmond and not with you? And that's when she said, well, the last time I saw the card was when I went to the tennis club and apparently someone stole it there. And I said, well, why didn't you tell me? And she says, well, I just hadn't missed it. She said, if you don't go to use it, you don't know it's gone. Which that kind of made sense.
What didn't make sense to both Walters and Detective Kelly were some of the other charges found on the card.
We also were able to determine that wigs were purchased during this time with that card from Wigs.com.
I personally don't wear wigs.
Before the murder, someone had purchased 2 wigs, one blonde, one auburn.
We knew that they were sent to a location in Kingwood, Texas. We had an address. There was a box there rented in the name of Piper Roundtree, which also had Jerry Walters' name on that box, and that's where the wigs had been delivered to.
He asked me, did I think she did it? And I said, I just can't fathom that she did this. It's not something that I ever recognized in her, no.
But it was all starting to add up for Detective Kelly. He was convinced that Piper Roundtree had flown to Richmond, Virginia, using her sister's name to kill her husband.
As things came to light, it was apparent she did have a plan and attempted to disguise who she was and thought she could get away with it.
Do you think there's any connection between the murder and this very difficult divorce that she and her husband, Fred Jablin, went through?
No, I think she was crushed when she didn't get custody of her children. We knew that several weeks before this murder, she had come up and taken the children camping. I think that they probably had a really good time, and I think that caused her to just think, this is what I'm missing. I'm missing the great time watching my children grow up, experiencing them as they become, teenagers, adults, and so forth. I think it's probably around that time she started hatching a plan in her mind of how she could change custody. And the way to do that, she had been through the court system. That had not worked in her favor, and I think she was looking for alternate plans, which ultimately left to her decision to kill Fred.
With Fred Jablin dead, Piper Roundtree wanted to win back her 3 kids, who were staying with Fred's brother Michael and his family. She asked for a custody hearing in Virginia Family Court.
She had asked whether I would go up there and testify at her custody hearing, and I said, I wasn't sure if I was going to be up there at that time, but I told her, I said, I will be happy to. And what she was working on is trying to establish that I had eliminated her as a suspect, and I certainly had not at that point.
Detective Kelly was all for Piper attending the hearing, scheduled 9 days after Fred Jablin's murder, but not for reasons Piper thought.
She's thinking about trying to go to Richmond and have this custody hearing. In the back of your mind, you're saying, well, if she's in Richmond, it would be easier for you guys to make an arrest, right?
Definitely. It was not a deal breaker that she was not in Richmond, but it saves extradition, that sort of thing.
9 days after the murder, in a Richmond, Virginia courtroom, a judge made her decision. Knowing that Piper was under suspicion for murder, the judge granted custody of Piper's 3 children, Callie, age 10, Paxton, age 12, and Jocelyn, age 15, to Michael Jablin.
My client has a constitutional right to have her children, and she's been denied that right.
Piper left the custody hearing shaken, and little did she know that just minutes later, she would be arrested for murder.
They could have taken this from a scene from a gangster movie. The police just jumped out with, it seemed like machine guns, and dragged me off to tell me that they were arresting me for the murder of my ex-husband.
After her arrest for murder 4 months ago, former prosecutor Piper Roundtree is having a tough time adjusting to life behind bars.
It's my mom, my sisters.
But she's anxious for her day in court and ready to stand trial for the murder of her ex-husband, Fred Jablin.
I don't think I would be intelligent if I weren't worried or concerned, but I have an incredible amount of faith.
All rise.
And I trust God. God's put me here for a reason.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, good afternoon.
In opening arguments, prosecutor Wade Kaiser launches right in with what he says is Piper's chilling motive. It all came down to money.
You'll hear evidence, ladies and gentlemen, that Piper Roundtree had been ordered to pay child support to the victim, Fred Jablin, who had custody of the children.
Kaiser says Piper Roundtree was tired of struggling to pay child support to her ex-husband, so she killed him.
She was over $9,700 in arrearages in making that child support. She blamed Fred and held him accountable for everything that had happened to her.
But listen to all the evidence over the next several days.
When Piper's defense attorney, Murray Janis, has his turn, he tells jurors the state's explanation of a motive just doesn't add up.
But you'll hear evidence that she'd made a support payment in October of 2004. hardly something somebody's going to do to send money if they in fact had planned to kill that person.
And more importantly, Janice says, there isn't anyone who can put Piper at the crime scene.
And see if one single person says, we saw that defendant, Piper Roundtree, take a gun out and shoot Fred Jablin, or we saw her running away.
Although Janice does admit there is a lot of evidence showing someone committed this murder,
You're going to find that somebody was in Virginia, somebody flew on a Southwest Airlines.
he insists the wrong Roundtree sister is on trial.
There's one name you're going to hear over and over and over again, and that's the name of Tina Roundtree.
And Janice says all the evidence will point to her.
I think you'll hear evidence that Tina had, certainly at one time, a gun herself, a .38 caliber. You won't hear any evidence that Piper Roundtree owned a gun.
Piper is obviously aware of her attorney's defense strategy, but when she spoke with us before trial, she wouldn't flat out accuse her sister of murder.
Did your sister Tina, did she do this?
I couldn't say. I don't know.
Is she capable of something like this?
I'm not going to answer that.
All rise.
No matter now before the court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Have a seat, please.
With the trial underway, prosecutors called Jerry Walters to the stand to help show that Piper hatched an elaborate plan to get away with murder. Using the bank account Walters had opened for her,
Was Piper Roundtree's name on the card?
No, it was not.
Piper purchased that blonde wig, and prosecutors say Piper wore it the weekend of the murder, so it would look like her sister Tina committed the crime.
Did you at any time order any wigs?
No, sir.
Okay.
Judge, our next witness is Kathy Molly.
Prosecutors say Piper also used Walters' card to buy that airline ticket, booked in her sister's name, to fly to and from the murder.
How is this ticket paid for?
By credit card, right here.
Kathy Molly, the agent, remembers selling a ticket to a woman using the name Roundtree. And for the first time in court,
Ms. Molly, would you look around the courtroom and see if you can identify the person to whom you sold that ticket on October 28th?
That lady right there looks familiar.
a witness is able to identify Piper. In fact, Molly says the brunette checked in as a blonde.
But the hair's not like that at all. It's much shorter and the color's a lot darker.
That's not all. Molly's biggest surprise? She says Piper was carrying a gun.
What do you recall unusual about checking her bags, if anything?
Nothing. She just told me right away that she needed to check a firearm. She just commented that it was her father's gun and she was taking it to him.
But that gun wasn't the state smoking gun. They say Piper not only got on that plane to Richmond, they can prove she spent the weekend there, within miles of the crime scene. It was Piper's own cell phone that would do her in.
We started looking through the cell phone records and recognized the number to Papa John's Pizza.
Henrico County Detective Chuck Hanna was given the job of tracking the cell phone calls to see if anyone could place Piper in Richmond.
So we called Papa John's Pizza and asked if individual with the last name of Roundtree had ordered a pizza. They stated that a person with the name of Roundtree did, and that person had it delivered to room 171 in the Homestead Suites.
That led Detective Hanna to the manager of this hotel, who remembers the guest in room 171.
She said she had a reservation and her name was Tina Roundtree.
And it's that witness, Tamiko James, who was able to place Piper Roundtree in Richmond, at a hotel located just miles from the crime scene.
Would you point to and identify that individual?
I believe it's the defendant here.
And then a second eyewitness takes the stand. Raymond Seward says he saw Piper on Saturday morning, just a few hours after Fred Jablin's murder.
Medium build, medium height, and blonde hair.
Where is she?
That lady right there.
Seward remembers Piper returning a car to his rental agency near the airport, the same airport where that flight carrying a passenger named Tina Roundtree would later take off.
She was just in a hurry to get to the airport.
And if eyewitness testimony wasn't enough to put Piper in Richmond, prosecutors say they have Piper caught on tape. They say the woman seen walking into a Richmond, Virginia gas station is the defendant, Piper Roundtree, in disguise.
The tape will show a white female enter the door.
It's a mountain of evidence that they hope will knock down any suggestion that it was Tina Roundtree in Richmond the weekend of the murder.
You have to concede it doesn't look good, right?
No, it doesn't look good. I certainly concede that. You know, my mouth fell open when I saw these things, like, oh my God.
Now prosecutors take their case one step further. They set out to show how Piper made sure that when she shot Fred Jablin, she wouldn't miss. Mac McClanahan knows both sisters. He dated Tina, and he worked with Piper.
When you went with Piper to work early in the week of October 25th to Galveston, did you ride together there?
We did.
And back?
Yes.
Okay.
On one of their rides home together, Mac told Piper he was going to stop at a shooting range.
Tell the members of the jury what Piper said when you brought that up.
She said she wanted to go with me.
Had you taken Piper to the gun range prior to that day?
No.
Piper shot a few rounds, then decided she wanted to rent another type of gun, so she went to the front desk and made an exchange.
She returned with a .38 caliber revolver.
It was the same type of weapon used to gun down Fred Jablin days later.
Did she fire the .38?
She did.
Saturday morning around 6:30.
And when Mac ran into Piper a few days after the murder, he found out just how nervous Piper was about their trip to the gun range.
I told her I was sorry to hear what had happened, and she hugged me and said, I love you, and then she said, please don't say anything about the gun range, it'll just complicate things.
With one of their last witnesses, prosecutors deal a final blow to Piper. It turns out the alibi Piper thought she had for the night before the murder had fallen through.
After you had a chance to think about it, have checked all of your records.
Kevin O'Keefe, who thought he'd seen Piper at the Volcano Bar on Friday night, now tells jurors he was mistaken.
Were you in the Volcano at all on that Friday, October 29th?
No.
You sure about that?
Positive.
Thank you.
After being battered by dozens of witnesses against her, Piper Roundtree, a former prosecutor, knows she's in real trouble. And now she has to make one of the most important decisions of her life. Should she take the stand?
All rise.
After listening to the 49 witnesses testifying against her,
That lady right there looks familiar.
Yes, sir. She's right there.
with the state's case finished,
That lady right there.
Piper Roundtree is looking like a goner.
If you could look those jurors in the eyes, how would you do it? What would you say?
I would tell them I didn't do it because of all the things that I stand for. I believe in truth. I believe in God.
Piper realizes she has only one option:
All right, next witness.
take the stand.
Call Piper Roundtree.
Come on around, Miss Roundtree, if you would.
But you know, it's risky to do that, to take the stand and testify. You know that, right?
Yeah.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the evidence
So, on the fourth day of trial,
the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
only 4 months after Fred Jablin was shot dead in his driveway,
You are Piper Ann Roundtree, is that correct?
I am.
Fred Jablin's ex-wife, Piper Roundtree, tries to answer to a jury. Her defense lawyer, Murray Janis, cuts straight to the chase.
Ms. Roundtree, did you shoot and kill Fred Jablin on Saturday morning, October 30th, 2004?
I did not.
When did you first learn that Fred Jablin had been shot and killed?
That evening.
What was your emotional condition at that time?
Well, I don't remember a whole lot of the rest of the evening.
Did you ever learn that evening where your children were?
No.
In a soft, shaky voice, Piper Roundtree testifies it was impossible for her to shoot Fred Jablin in Virginia because at the time of the murder, she was in Texas. But it isn't just Piper's whereabouts she and her defense team will use as an alibi. Their strategy is based on showing the jury what kind of person Piper Roundtree really is.
And do you love your children?
Yes, very much.
And where are they as far as priorities in your life?
Second only to God.
Piper tells jurors the last thing she'd do is hurt her kids.
Yes, it was not an easy divorce, but I had no right to take away the children's father. The children need both parents.
How were you getting along with Fred Jablin compared to during the divorce itself?
It was an answer to my prayers. We were doing very good.
And when it comes to her alibi about being at the Volcano Bar, she insists she was there that Friday before the murder, even though Kevin O'Keefe had told prosecutors he wasn't even there that Friday night.
Do you know when it was that you saw the defendant in the Volcano?
Saturday.
October 30th?
Right.
But Piper stands by her story and says she even remembers flirting and drinking with a stranger.
What was the gentleman's name that you met up with, if you know?
He said Steve initially, and then he said, call him Jerry.
Have you ever seen him again since then?
No.
All right, Ms. Guys. Ms. Roundtree, I believe you testified.
The prosecutors go on the attack. Piper's motive for murder is simple: a vengeful woman who had lost her children.
You had lost custody of your 3 children completely?
Not completely.
Doesn't the order state that you lost physical and legal custody of your children?
Yes.
To your husband?
Yes.
Wasn't that devastating to you?
Yes.
Wouldn't you do anything for your children?
I wouldn't kill for them, no.
Piper, however, is unable to explain away the physical evidence at the heart of the case, starting with her Jeep parked at the Houston airport the very weekend Fred Jablin was murdered.
Can you explain why the records from the Houston Hobby Airport show that your vehicle was in their parking lot on Thursday and Friday and Saturday?
No. I have no explanation.
Then prosecutors questioned Piper about her visit to the gun range, where she practiced shooting just days before the murder with the same type of weapon used to kill Fred Jablin.
You shot 2 different pistols that day,
Yes.
didn't you? One was a .22 caliber revolver, and the other was a .38 caliber revolver.
That's what they say.
Well, you had it in your possession for a period of time,
I don't
didn't
know
you?
what it was. It was a gun.
And what about that blonde wig? Prosecutors say Piper needed it desperately for the weekend of the murder, to disguise herself as Tina.
You wanted the blonde wig so bad that when you got the box with the paprika wig in it, with the note saying that they didn't have it in stock and that you would have to pay an additional charge, you said, send it anyway, I want it, correct?
Tina had wanted.
No, I'm
the
not
blonde
asking
one.
you what Tina said, I'm asking you, you told them,
Yes,
send
I
it.
did.
I'll pay the
I
extra
did.
money, isn't that
Yes,
right?
sir.
And you had the blonde wig?
Yes, sir.
Where's it at?
Last time I saw it, Tina had it.
If Tina had the wig and Tina was on the plane, then
You want this jury to think that Tina committed the murder, don't you?
I have no idea what happened.
You have not.
I don't.
the evidence pinpoints Piper in Richmond, near the scene of Fred Jablin's murder. Hotel records and receipts show Piper used the bank card she said was stolen.
I didn't know what had happened to the card.
There's one more staggering piece of evidence: those damning cell phone records. Calls made from Piper's cell phone from Richmond to Texas just after the murder.
What happened to the cell phone?
I don't know.
While the crime's being committed, you don't know where it is. That's what you're telling these people.
I'm telling them that I didn't have the phone from probably, that I remember. Last time I remember it was Tuesday, before that.
You lost the telephone on Tuesday. Where did you find it on Saturday?
It was at Tina's house.
Because you want this jury to think that Tina committed the murder. You're willing to put it on her, aren't you?
No, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. You can have a seat next to your counsel.
Piper steps down. She has done all she can. Now it's up to this man, Marty McVeigh, the lone witness who can physically put her 1,000 miles away from the murder.
And where is your office at the present time?
In Houston, Texas.
Now, sir, tell us, if you will, jumping up to Saturday, October 30th, 2004. Did you ever see Piper Roundtree on that date?
I did.
And where was that, sir?
In my office.
And could you tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury what time you saw her?
Approximately 4:30 that afternoon, give or take 5 minutes.
Are you sure of that time, sir?
Yes, sir.
McVeigh is Piper's very best witness because it's impossible for Piper to have been in two places at once. McVeigh says she was in his Houston office at the exact same time police say she was on an airplane returning from murdering Fred Jablin.
How many people have you talked to about the time Piper Roundtree was in your office on Saturday, October 30th?
Since then?
Yes, sir.
Oh, gosh. Well, I've talked to the prosecutors here. I talked to the detectives, again, in Houston, from the Houston Police Department. I've talked to Paige Akins from the Times-Dispatch.
Local newspaper reporter Paige Aiken ends up becoming part of the very story she was covering.
Come on up, Miss Aiken, if you would.
She takes the stand to testify about what Marty McVeigh told her.
And how are you employed, Miss Aiken?
I'm a reporter at the Richmond Times-Dispatch.
Have you been assigned, and have you in fact been covering the case involving Miss Piper Roundtree?
I have.
Paige Aiken swears that McVeigh had told her that Piper had stopped by his office the day after the murder, not the afternoon of the murder.
Did you ask him when, prior to Sunday, October 31st, he had last seen Piper Roundtree?
Yes, he said it had been quite a while, about a year, I believe.
Marty McVeigh is put back on the stand and sticks to his story and dates.
Had you seen Piper Roundtree before Sunday, October 31st?
Yes.
And when was that?
On October 30th.
All right, we'll be in recess till tomorrow.
All rise.
When it's all over, Piper Roundtree seems dazed and exhausted.
Do you think you conveyed to the jury what you wanted to get across?
I hope so. That's all I can say is I hope so.
Are you afraid?
Yeah. Yes. Yes, I'm afraid.
I was amazed about the evidence the police collected, the documentation they did, the witnesses.
Throughout Piper Roundtree's murder trial, the brother of the victim, Michael Jablin, has watched closely, focused on the woman who was once part of his family.
Any doubt in your mind that Piper Roundtree is guilty?
There's no doubt, and I was very sad about the whole thing, hearing it, how somebody with such a high level of education could have plotted such an event.
Piper's mother, Betty Roundtree, sat in the courtroom every day. She can't believe her youngest daughter is a killer.
Do I think she's guilty? No, I do not. She's had so much love in her life, and she's such a gentle, kind person. I honestly cannot believe that she did this.
The jury deliberates for less than an hour.
Ladies and gentlemen, have you been able to reach a verdict in these matters?
Yes, I've been.
Would you hand it to the sheriff, please? We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of first-degree murder of Frederick Jablin as charged in the indictment.
Joanne Lawson, is this your verdict?
Yes.
Beverly Owens, is this your verdict?
Yes.
Holly Pace, is this your verdict?
Yes.
No one seems surprised, not even Piper.
All rise.
Within an hour, the jury hears more testimony and then will recommend her sentence, anywhere from 20 years to life.
They were extremely, extremely close.
Betty Roundtree pleads for leniency so the children who'd already lost their father won't lose their mother, too.
Her whole life was just with those children, taking them different places, reading to them.
The truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Have a seat, please, Ms. Jablin.
Michael Jablin is not vindictive, just sad and searching for answers.
How do I explain to young children that their mother killed their father? They've lost both parents basically now. How do I explain that to these children? How does anybody explain something like that?
In less than an hour, the jury decides to recommend the harshest penalty.
We, the jury, having found the defendant guilty of first-degree murder of Frederick Jablin, fix her punishment at life imprisonment.
The 5-day trial included nearly 60 witnesses and 80 pieces of evidence. He has now been sentenced to life in prison.
It's over. How do you feel right now?
I think we feel good. We got the result that we anticipated having in the long run, but it's nice to see the jury validate our investigation and bring a little bit of justice, as close as we're going to get here anyway.
Within minutes of the verdict, we talked with Piper in a holding cell.
Piper, a jury has spoken. Guilty, life in prison.
Yeah.
What's your reaction to that sentence?
I think I'm still in shock.
It hasn't hit you yet, has it?
No, somewhat, I don't know.
In spite of all the evidence and the jury's swift verdict, Piper Roundtree still insists she's innocent.
For the record, you still are saying that you did not kill your ex-husband?
I didn't. I mean, obviously it looked like I didn't.
You didn't do it?
No, I didn't.
Will you get an opportunity at all while you're serving your time to see your children? Do you know anything about that?
I hope so. I'd be happy to talk to them.
Anything you want to say to them?
I just love them and miss them and would want to talk to them.
What kind of mother would do this?
I think that's a very good question. I don't know what kind of mother would leave them without a father and without a mother. I don't know. It's really hard to understand that. It's very sad when you have to think about that.
I really think she is so sick that she thought she could do this and then just walk into the sunset with her 3 kids. I think that's how she thought this was going to play out.
Megan McCrary, Fred's neighbor and friend, has no sympathy for Piper Roundtree.
And what was she thinking? Did she not understand the impact this was going to have on her children's lives? I mean, she extinguished 4 lives that day. She murdered her ex-husband and basically destroys the childhood of her 3 children. I don't understand what she was thinking.
The verdict may be in, but what was the jury thinking as they watched the halting testimony of Piper Roundtree?
Wouldn't you do anything for your children?
I wouldn't kill for them, no.
I think that was one of the most serious moments of the trial for me, because it was the nail in the coffin.
It was the nail in the coffin when she took the stand?
Yeah, for me. That was going from 90% to 100% guilty.
Bruce Ladd, Joel Howell, and Timothy James spoke to us about the impression Piper made.
The 4 or 5 words that we got out of her weren't a whole lot, and they were not convincing.
When she took the stand, I mean, it almost seemed like, she could kind of, turn her tears on and off.
Do you love your children?
Yes, very much.
And of all the evidence against her, what was it that sealed Piper's fate?
The cell phone records. You could very
easily track exactly where she was and what she did.
Cell phone tracked her all the way.
Yes, it did.
Yeah, the whole time.
And what if Tina Roundtree, the sister Piper pretended to be, the sister many people say was Piper's best friend?
It's impossible to know whether or not Tina knew that Piper was going on a trip to murder her ex-husband. But based on how close they were, it's hard to imagine that Tina was not knowledgeable in some sense that something very serious was going to take place.
She would stick up for her sister, and I think she would do anything short of murder for her sister.
Your name came up a lot during the trial. It was almost as if the defense was to blame Tina Roundtree for the murder. What's your reaction to that?
They're just trying to set a possibility of doubt in the juror's mind.
But you didn't mind your
I
name
don't-
being used
I don't
in
care.
that fashion?
Doesn't matter. I don't care. It doesn't make it. I mean, I think it's a stupid defense.
But the jury is certain. The right Roundtree was convicted. However, months after the trial, Tina Roundtree herself would be convicted of tampering with evidence after the murder of Fred Jablin. She would be sentenced to 9 months probation. But this jury would sentence Piper to a term
We, the jury, fix her punishment at life imprisonment.
far more severe.
Why life in prison?
We didn't ever want her to come back into her children's lives because it would have been reliving the murder